Chief Meteorologist Ashley McDonald. And sports with Mo Carter. Alabama News Network at 10 is on CBS 8 and ABC Montgomery.
Slavery in America is a hot topic for Hollywood movies. This year, 12 Years a Slave was nominated for an Oscar. It is the true story of a free African-American man kidnapped and sold into slavery.
But slavery is more than a movie for Montgomery. The government-sanctioned buying and selling of humans was an everyday fact of life in the capital city for decades. News anchor Tim Lennox has more in this News Extra, Signs of Slavery.
Slavery left deep, indelible marks on the city and on its people.
They would not allow you to marry, would not allow you to read and write, would not allow you to practice your religion, would not even allow you to play your African drum.
Thea Rose Touré runs the Slave Museum in Selma. Her ancestors were slaves.
I am the descendant of a survivor. And so even though my grandmother and my mother did not talk about slavery, they took the spirit of resistance and passed that spirit of resistance to me.
Slavery was everywhere in Montgomery and the Black Belt where the state was founded. 2,655 slaves in 1820. 40 years later, the year before the Civil War, there were almost 24,000, half the Montgomery population. One slave owner alone, Henry Lucas of Mount Meigs, owned 275 slaves. Slavery was a big business in Montgomery. Slaves would be delivered here at the Alabama River by steamboat or at a nearby train station. Then they'd be taken in chains from here, further downtown to Court Square. That's where the buying and selling of men, women, and their children took place.
I hope you never ever understand slavery anyhow. But the role of slavery cannot be underestimated in Montgomery, and it's so important that we emphasize this.
There are new slavery signs downtown. This one is in front of the offices of the Equal Justice Initiative, which had them installed. They tell visitors and residents the relationship between slavery and Montgomery.
Certainly the starting point has to be slavery.
The executive director is Brian Stevenson.
Virtually every person of color in this community is the descendant of a slave. We don't have a large black immigrant population in Montgomery. The African Americans that are in this community are here because they are the children and great-grandchildren of enslaved people. And knowing that, and reflecting on that, changes some of the conversations we have to have when we talk about this history.
That's why its lingering impact right now is causing havoc in the black and white community. The white community, because when you grow up and you're socialized to believe you are superior, then you support laws that not only hurt black people, but hurt yourself and your children.
Slavery is also a part of the new Alabama Voices Museum at the Department of Archives and History. Director Steve Murray says slavery is an essential part of the Alabama story.
In this exhibit, you will see hand tools, woodworking tools that were used by slaves in Alabama, and then also the things they made. A beautiful coverlet that was made by slaves, clothing, shoes that help us to understand what their life was like and the work that they did.
The new museum opens on the 15th. All of the buildings that were used as warehouses and pens to hold slaves in downtown Montgomery are long gone. But in a sense, it really doesn't matter if every piece of physical evidence of slavery were to disappear overnight. Slavery is in Montgomery's DNA. It fed the city's economy for decades. And remember EJI's Brian Stevenson.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. My grandmother, in fact, was the daughter of enslaved people. This legacy of slavery was definitely real. The things my grandmother taught me, she taught me as someone who grew up nurtured and shaped by the institution of slavery. And it's not distant, right? These are people I know and love and admire. And it's that way for many people of color.
Stevenson wants the 3 new slavery signs in Montgomery to prompt a conversation, perhaps even leading to a Truth and Reconciliation Commission-like effort, like the one that followed the end of apartheid in South Africa. But first, he says, we must confront the impact not only of slavery, but of the century that followed, when Alabama created slavery-like conditions for her African-American residents. Tim Lennox for CBS 8 and ABC Montgomery.
And to see a summary of the Equal Justice Initiative report on slavery in Alabama, go online to EJI.org. Well, Amanda Knox